But as I think about the heroic men who declared our independence from British rule, as I think about how they fearlessly faced off against that powerful standing army led by the monarchy of Britain, I came to the conclusion our founders really aren't that much different from all of us. They were just simple men. They loved the promise of America. They were shopkeepers and farmers, workers, everyday folks who had courage. They had great character. And above all, they had vision. The ability to see the future of a free America and the drive to go after it. They're like us. Not to mention the willingness to fight for it at all costs. So listen to me. We can do what they did. Ordinary people do extraordinary things every day in America. It happens all the time. They had George Washington. We have Donald Trump. And think about it. Washington, like Trump, risked everything for the good of America, their businesses, their fortunes, their lives. And if President Trump isn't giving up, we can't either.
We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down. We will never, ever surrender. My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. You know that.
Absolutely. And I got his back. I'm just his soldier. Did you know, during that infamous Boston Tea Party way back when the Patriots stormed the Boston Harbor, did you know that they refused to vandalize the British ships? They methodically dumped the British tea into the water. But if they broke anything, they fixed it. Not many people know this. When they cut padlocks off of those ships, they replaced the padlocks. In some respects, it reminds me of January 6th, that Capitol security breach. The overzealous crowd that roamed the Capitol, wanting their voices to be peacefully and patriotically heard. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't slice chairs. They didn't set things on fire. They didn't spray paint walls. The few that did do some of that deserve to be punished. But the masses did not do that. Do I wish it never happened? Of course. Do I wish the herd mentality didn't take over? Of course. But by and large, the majority of those Americans do not deserve the FBI breaking down their doors with flashbangs. They now face the wrath of a tyrannical government that wants them all imprisoned. Trump-loving grandmas, Purple Heart winners, it doesn't matter. The left wants them all of us. They want us squashed, and they want us rendered powerless. That's how the British looked at Americans, by the way. So here is what needs to happen. Get inspired by our past. Be bold, don't back down, and most of all, the men who led the resistance against Britain were fabulous communicators. Become one. Fight with words and the truth. Use facts and the Constitution. And armed with that, I promise you, we cannot be beat. But you need to trust in the greatness of America. You can talk about it all you want. You have to trust it and have faith. Good always triumphs evil. Just as we saw the start of the Revolutionary War, the men and women who risked their lives and livelihoods for freedom were not all leaders, but they were all bold, they were all brave. They were soldiers, not sheep. And there is a huge difference between that. So I ask you right now, today, be a soldier of freedom. Because right now we need you more than ever. So we especially need soldiers of freedom in a country with skyrocketing crime that is now out of control. This past holiday weekend turned out to be a deadly bloodbath on city streets. More than 230 people were fatally shot in over 500 shootings within 2 days across the country. What is going on in Joe Biden's America? Lawlessness. Chicago suffered the greatest bloodshed, led by the failure of Mayor Lori Lightfoot. This weekend alone, more than 100 people were shot in Chicago, including a 1-month-old baby shot in the head. 16 others were left dead. Remember, Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. That's not working for them. So why are we caught in this endless cycle of violence? Because weak on crime leaders keep letting the criminals out of jail to walk the streets. Well, joining me now is retired New York Police Department Lieutenant and criminal justice expert, Dr. Darren Porcher. Doctor, it's great to have you on the program.
Grant, it's a pleasure. I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time.
Oh, you make my day, my man, and thank you so much for all you've done to keep Americans safe, New Yorkers. Well, we're even then, all right? Hey, I got to ask you, though, what is driving this violence?
What's driving this violence is the democratically elected mayors throughout the course of the country. When we remove those democratically elected mayors, then we can set forth on a precedent to experience precipitous drops. One of the things that you mentioned earlier is Mayor Lightfoot up in, I refer to it as Chirac, being Chicago, because it reminds me of the peak of the insurgency over in Iraq in connection with the gun violence that they're experiencing. No one is doing anything in Chicago in terms of trying to reduce the crime. And then Mayor Lightfoot, she conveniently uses her position as a black woman to shadow or detract from the real problem, which is her incompetence. Her inability to invoke a level of a skill set that can reduce crime is what the problem is. Because believe it or not, the Chicago Police Department is fully capable and aware of how to reduce the crime. And we focus on something that we see as targeted policing, meaning you drive the surge of police officers in the area where you have the greatest amount of crime. However, she doesn't understand that, so she uses a series of red herrings, such as race, her being a woman, and that's an absolute piece of hogwash. The practitioners and law enforcement in Chicago know how to get it done. However, she's handcuffing the officers and letting the criminals run rampant in that city, and that's what we're seeing as a result.
Lieutenant, I've worked in a number of cities across the country, and the cities that had the least amount of crime were cities that found a way to have the police work with the communities, and the communities want the police there, and everybody was working together. With Lori Lightfoot, de Blasio, Garcetti in L.A., all pushing the community against the cops, you're never going to solve the crime problem from a law enforcement perspective if this partnership with the community isn't happening, and there's no way that happens under their leadership.
You're absolutely right. Police and community should work in tandem in connection with reducing crime. That police and community relationship should be symbiotic. However, it's not happening because we have the politicians that are at the forefront that are separating that relationship. And I give you a case in point. We look at Mayor de Blasio here in the city of New York. Whenever you hear him speak out, it's speaking out against the police. It's not speaking out against the crime that's plaguing the city of New York. The crime has reached epic proportions in the city of New York. However, the bozo that we have being Mayor de Blasio is clearly taking a step back because he's inept. He doesn't have the capable skill set to focus on the crime that is destroying the city. Let the practitioners do the job.
Let me ask you this one question with just a short amount of time left. Do you think they want to stop the violence, or are they just naive at how to do it, or even worse, do they want the violence?
I don't think that they want the violence. I think that they want the violence stopped. But I think that they're folding to the sentiment of the mob, and because they believe the mob is going to support them as they progress as political figures, and it's blowing up in their face as a result, creating carnage and deaths throughout these cities that they govern.
All right, you make me a deal, Dr. Darren Porcher, Lieutenant. You got to come back on again. I love having you on. This was it should have happened way sooner, my man, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming in tonight.
It sounds good, Grant, and I'm buying the next time I come on.
All right, that sounds good. Tito's on the
It'll be
rocks
hot dogs and sauerkraut. It'll be fully American, but I'm buying.
Perfect.